This is Design in Theater, and I'm Dr. Christiana Moldrum-Harkulich. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about how design thinking begins. When we're making the transition from page to stage, we have to create the entire world of the play on stage, and that can happen a variety of different ways. And it takes a whole team of designers: sound, light, costumes, set, projection, and more, depending on how big the show is, to create this world of the play. But pretty much all design begins the same way, with a basic idea that is an abstraction from the text. So design thinking starts with abstract ideas. The process of creation has to begin somewhere. In realism, design will often try to be as realistic as possible, but oftentimes designers are embracing elements of theatricality and asking the audience to use their imaginations while they look at the stage and imagine it to be so many other places. Sometimes theater artists will say you have to suspend your disbelief, which is to say that the theater asks you to put aside all of your questions about how it's not real and just go with it. But it's more than just suspending your disbelief. Theater asks you to actively engage in your imagination, to imagine what is on stage is as real as the actors on stage are making it. It is a process of play, and we as adults rarely get to play. And so going to the theater offers us an opportunity to engage with that kind of playfulness and that kind of imagination that we often don't get to after childhood is over. So what does abstract ideas mean? We're going to look at the poem by Robert Frost, Fire and Ice, to think about that. So this is Robert Frost's poem, Fire and Ice. It's very short. My father made me memorize it, and it has a lot when I was very young, and it has a lot of very active imagery in it, which is why we're using it. It's also an example of heightened language to bring us back to an earlier module. So, the poem goes, "Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great, and would suffice." So we have a poem that's talking about the end of the world. And if we were to stage this poem, to make it real on stage, to give it a visual life, right, an oral life, a look and an aesthetic, we would need to start someplace. And that's with what the words are saying, the mood and the feeling. And we have two big images to begin with: fire and ice. We also have ideas of desire. We have sort of the impending doom of the end of the world. We also have hate and destruction and greatness. So there's a lot of big ideas which don't necessarily have a specific way that they look, right? This is not a scenic design. It's not a stage direction that tells you everything, like in fences, right? We don't get a full description of the yard that then has to be made real. What we get in staging this, if we were going to take some lights or sound or scenic elements, we would need to start with our research. And research, right, finding the abstract idea is one of the most difficult processes in creation, in taking that mood, this word that describes the scene, right, this metaphor for what the play is, and then creating a design out of it, is one of the most difficult parts of design. So when we talk about research for design, it's different than it is for research for acting or research for directing, because the design elements, similar to the way that an actor creates a character and has to do a lot of background research that way, the designer has to make a lot of interpretations into the text as a whole. So they're not thinking about a single character like an actor would be. Much like a director, they are thinking about the play and the world of the play as a whole. And the director's concept, which we talked about in the last module, will also impact the types of decisions they make in the design process. So what does research look like? Each type of design starts with a process of looking for ideas and visual of both the visual and oral, so sound, ideas to begin the process of creating a design. First, you're going to come up with words and describe the mood of the scene, then looking for images that capture the mood to create a visual language for the play. Oftentimes, designers are going to look for images rather than try to put it into words, because as we say, a picture speaks 1,000 words and is a much faster way of communicating that information. So, looking back at this poem, Fire and Ice, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. Okay, so we have flames. We have a mood of destruction, which is a word in the poem, but it's also the mood, right? It's destructive. You want to look for adjectives. So if we're thinking about natural disaster, right? Disaster might be a good word for this. That's the feel that we want to put onto stage. We would then look for images, taking the word disaster. So let's hop on our handy dandy Google machine. Disaster. Right, and it gives you lots of other things, but we'll start with this, disaster, and then we'll look at images. Right, lots of these feel like the end of the world. This is water. That's not helpful for this poem that we're looking for images of. This one might be, though, right? This idea of fire, right? When we're looking for pictures. But this is the process. And there's something about, let's look at this picture a little bit more, right? So this is a fire, a natural fire on a road. And it feels like the world is ending, right? Things are being destroyed, which is something that we're talking about. So is this the best picture to get this feeling across? Look at a couple different ones that are sort of related. Oh, there's something sort of sad about this one. There's hope with the green and then all of the fire beyond. The fire coming underneath. I like the first one the best, personally, from a design perspective, because there's a lot of drama in it, there's a lot of lines, and the mood is very active, right? And there's also a story in the visual of the road, that the road is going into the disaster. So that's one way to think about what that research might look like. You could also add the word ice to disaster, but this isn't really getting at the feeling that we want to. It feels very still afterwards. And I think personally, my interpretation of the poem is a lot more active. So maybe I want to look for the words ice storm, which gets us a little more active, right? You might end up with some pictures of the day after tomorrow. That one's kind of interesting. It's sort of frozen over and still. So there's something very active about fire and something very still and inactive and passive almost about ice. So those are two ideas you might want to think about too when we're getting to these abstractions that begins the design process. All of that, though, is just the beginning. In early processes of taking the production from page to stage, the director and all the designers will meet together and they'll bring all of their research images, these abstract ideas, and they'll put them together to try to begin to create the world as a whole. Because theater is an inherently collaborative process. And so the director will then head the ship, and captaining the ship, and help the designers make decisions so that everyone is talking to each other and the designs make sense as a whole.